Good morning and welcome to WKNI TV 25. I'm going to try to make it through on this good news segment with Senator Holley this morning. And Senator, first of all, thank you for coming on WKNI. We're both under the weather a little bit.
It starts in January, and here it is midsummer almost. And like others, you and I have had the cough and going to see doctors and all, more so than we have in the past. And I don't know when it'll ever end.
It's nasty once it gets hold of you. It doesn't want to let go. And it's not just, it goes away for a week or two
Yeah.
or a month. This case, it was a month for me. And I was feeling great. And then all of a sudden, Teresa came down with it, and then I came down with it again.
Same in my family.
Wow. I guess that means we got to put the women all together. No. We'll stay away from that one. But, Senator, thank you. A very difficult year in the Senate this year. A lot of things were going on, and we've talked with you before on it that some things are just unbelievable that happened up there. And you were even awestruck a couple of times yourself. But please tell us about this session and tell us the good, bad, and the ugly.
Well, I think the thing that stands out in my mind the most was the day or so after the session is how each party and other people evaluated the session. The pro tem of the Senate says it was the best session that he had ever been involved in. The governor says from his perspective he got everything he asked for and he was well pleased and he had a good session. The minority party says it was an opportunity lost, and of course they spent much of those 30 legislative days at the microphone in dilatory, delaying type procedures, reading bills at length and offering comments that just to fill time and space, and that slowed down. We had a real slow session. There were over 1,200 bills introduced in the House and Senate, not counting local bills. And of those, I believe it was 130 so of them became law. And so that is a real slow session. And that's not altogether bad, but there are certain things that you have goals to pass. And we generally got to most everything we wanted to. However, we would have loved to have had a working relationship so you can get ideas from the minority party, but when there's just dilatory filibuster tactics going on, the term cloture cuts off debate. It stops the process, and you go strictly to a voting on the measures before us. This session, there were 48 cloture petitions in the Alabama Senate. Now, over the past 3 years, there's been 102 cloture petitions. That means stop debate, go vote, and stop the dilatory tactics. We have a majority in the Alabama Senate that can do that. There are 23, 24 individuals who are the Republican Party, the majority party, and we can stop debate. But however, it takes a good deal of time to implement such a process. And two, you'd rather not have to do that to your fellow senators. Over the past 30-something years, I have not seen more than 10 or 15 cloture petitions all total over the last 136 years that the Democrats were in control of the Alabama legislature. I would dare say there were not more than 30, 40 petitions that whole 136 years. So it really has been a difficult, slow, laborious process that we've been having to go through just to get to a vote on a particular piece of legislation.
It wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun. It was slow. You sit there and it's boring. You just listen to dilatory tactics. And anyway, that was last session. Maybe the next one will be better, and hope is eternal. So we will.
Doesn't this hurt the
that.
individual's credibility when they do that?
Well, I saw many times that the individuals would spend as much time as they could in dilatory tactics and filibustering, and then when the bill came up for vote, it was a good bill, so they would vote for it. But they were just simply slowing down everything and not letting the process work, which is debate and amendments and substitutes and votes.
Well, Senator, we know a couple of bills that came through there, and we're talking about it off camera. Can you go ahead and share with us some things?
Yeah, I think we may have. I appreciate your invitation to come and be with you, Eddie. It's a pleasure to always come out here. We have, I think, many important pieces of legislation to come up this past legislative session. The least of which is the budgets for the Alabama education system and for the state general fund. Both of those did pass, and the governor has signed both of them. So we have budgetary success with respect to the two budgets, and that's the main purpose that we go to Montgomery for, is to deal with the budgets of the state in education and in the general fund. We have a lack of resources compared to where we were in '08. The economy is still not recovered completely. We've had, for the first time, some growth in the Education Trust Fund, and all things being equal, the budgets are utilizing some one-time monies to balance it. So we had some good times, and then some luck in some respect that we've had a little bit of growth in the Education Trust Fund. We've tried to look at the budgets in a way that you would look at your household budget or your business budgets, and we've utilized the resources we've got, but we also recognize we've got to cut back on the state government. We've got to right-size government. And one of the first bills that we dealt with was to pay back the rainy day fund. You recall the loan from the oil and gas money?
Correct. We
set in play, although it wasn't required, we never intended to not pay that money back to our savings account. So we set a process in play whereby we will repay all the money that was loaned to the state from the Alabama Trust Fund. So that was the first bill passed and the first bill signed by the governor. So it had an extremely high priority. And we took other pieces of legislation that hopefully would save, in one respect, several $million, upwards of $30 million, and that was a consolidation. I'm sure we talked about that bill in the past session with you. The consolidation of law enforcement on the economy of scale and purchasing and utilization of manpower and the things that can go with consolidation of law enforcement in this state would save us a great deal of money, and I think it would give us a better law enforcement of the laws of the state of Alabama, whether it be at the court system or at the highway patrol level or the other components of law enforcement that were consolidated into this bill. So I'm quite happy with that particularly. We also recognize that the information technology, computers and software, that was purchased. Each department had its own little kingdom, and it didn't necessarily work with each other. It didn't. Accounting systems were just for that department and didn't communicate with each other. So we've tried to come with a process whereby we can maintain the perspective for some freedom within the department, yet we can purchase things on the economy of scale, and we are able to utilize the resources in one department for other departments and communicate with each other. And that was the second bill that would save us, hopefully, anywhere from $30 to $50 million over an extended period of time.
Some of the things that were talked about here before, and you and I talked about them, and of course Mike Jones, Jr., the state representative, we talked about where you had it on the last page back there, but where let's see. You caught my attention. No, not that one. Accountability.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. The Accountability Act and how that would help the current system that we have.
Well, the Accountability Act takes children who are in failing schools and gives them the ability to leave that particular school and go to a different school that is not failing. And that was the purpose of the Accountability Act of 2013. It was the controversy had to do with the income tax credits that the parent could take with them to the next school.
Right.
And we modified it somewhat but it also has a tremendous opportunity for local school systems. We kept hearing in Montgomery that we must, and I believe this too, I believe that local control, government at the lowest level is the best government. And based on that philosophy, we implemented this Accountability Act. We also gave school systems the ability to have flexibility within their operation of their school system, so they can they don't have to, if they've got a better way of doing it, then as they say they do it many times, we don't want to be burdened by the requirements of the state, then let's have some flexibility in how we implement things at the local level. And that particular legislation did that. We also, without question, gave the state superintendent through the State Board of Education the authority to intervene in these failing schools. Intervention is a key component of this Accountability Act and Accountability Program.
Senator, I want to talk some more about this, but I want to take a quick break because we got to take care of our sponsors as well.
Okay.
And get back on this because there's some things here on a local level that we just discussed with Teddy Watson from Andalusia Schools as well. And this might kind of blend together.
Okay.
Senator, once again, thank you for coming to WKNI TV 25. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to forego the formalities here this morning because I think we need to make adjustments for ourselves. But keep it real, keep God in it, and we'll be back with more with Senator Holley right after this. Good morning, and welcome back to Good News, Covington County with WKNI TV 25. We're once again with Senator Holley and talking about, right now we've been talking about some of the things that affect the school system, and we're talking about how it's coming back more to the responsibility, or you want to put the responsibility back on the local level.
Absolutely.
And we had Teddy Watson, the superintendent here, wonderful person from Andalusia, and here last week with the mayor, and we're talking about some of the issues that they have with the system now, and monetizing it and so on and so forth. Plus a 1/2 cent tax increase on a local level in the city of Andalusia to support the school system. Well, it was brought to my attention by a viewer that a lot of the problem is just what you talked about prior to going to the break, where the people like from Red Level go to Strawn, or from Strawn go to Andalusia, or Andalusia to Strawn or Pleasant Home, and they don't live in the registered district. So accountability has laxed that rule a little bit to allow this. Is that correct?
Actually, I don't see the relationship much in where they go to school in the Accountability Act, because it could in the future, but up until this point in time, it has not been in play. So the intervention part of it on the state superintendent's level on failing schools, first of all, I don't think we have any failing schools as defined by the state superintendent in Covington or in Coffee County. They're not in southeast Alabama, but we have some schools that I think any superintendent and school board member would and parent would like to see improve, and that would be the impetus for the bill in general, but particularly those schools that are identified by the state superintendent as failing schools.
Okay, so this has to deal with more on a level of failing schools that need the extra oomph to go along with it, and that allow parents to take those students out of those schools and place them in better schools.
Not being relegated to the rest of their life to a failing school system just because of where they live.
Is that, and can I ask you a question on that? And,
Sure.
And okay, is that really fixing the problem?
Well,
I mean, you've got a failing school. Are you going to let everybody fail?
no, sir. Then that's part of what the governor of the state of Alabama says, and we agree. Or I do. When we identify these schools, Mr. Superintendent, as a failing school, we've got to have the intervention component of the other bill where you can go into that school system, whether it be the administration or financial resources or transportation resources or space, classroom space, or whatever it is that we need to help improve that failing school needs to be a component of the intervention program that the state superintendent would implement.
Okay, so it's not like a bad thing. It sounds in the initial onset that it's like, well, it's it's a bad neighborhood. We're going to move out.
Yeah.
And then what happens to the school? But you're saying if it's identified as that situation, the state will step in.
It should get some intervention and should get some additional help identifying what the problem is, and that's the job of the state superintendent. Yes.
I'm glad we got that clarified,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you, it just sounded like, okay, and it happens. We have that happen all over the country, where, bad neighborhoods are abandoned and they're just left as bad neighborhoods. And next thing you know, everybody in that community suffers. But here, the state's willing to step up and take care of that.
That is the plan.
All right. Tell us a little bit more about this thing.
Well, I was looking through some notes that I brought with me over, and I was looking at Medicaid, Medicare,
There you go.
and there's an ongoing thought process in Alabama is let's abolish Obamacare.
Yeah.
And
in fact, Congresswoman Roby yesterday mentioned that during the interview.
That being the case, we feel like that process has got to take place in Washington. We simply do not have the authority in Alabama to repeal Obamacare. However, we think there's some things we can do to improve the delivery system of Medicaid. And what we've done is we set up regional delivery systems, about 7 of them in the entire state. Instead of having one department in Montgomery dictating the policies and payments and implementing the program from Montgomery, we brought it down to a local level so we can have it in a region. So just pick an area of the state, southeast Alabama, the Wiregrass. We will have a delivery system that's different than the one we've been having, one that is approved and the process is run from this region down here and not out of Montgomery. So that legislation is in play and in place to hopefully will. Well,
there's a lot of confusion with the people out here, because folks are saying, oh, well, the state's going to repeal Obamacare, then what are we going to do? And then hearing the Congresswoman yesterday saying that they are going to repeal that. I mean, they're working hard to get that repealed, and that put privatization back in where it needs to be. And this go ahead.
That's basically what we were attempting to do in this legislation. It eliminates the current fee-for-service model of paying providers, and it establishes a locally controlled managed care network that is regional, Wiregrass area, which will provide incentives for regional organizations to oversee and improve the patient care in order to reduce the cost. And the estimates on this are staggering, upwards of $250 million over a 5-6 year period of time. If we can give the same type service or better at a lower cost, that is the purpose of the legislation.
Anything about pre-existing conditions? Because a lot of folks, like myself and my
I think
wife,
one of the things I remember about Obamacare is that it did include all pre-existing conditions. So I've not heard that discussed as something that is one of the areas that would be cut back or scaled back or not implemented.
so that'll be continued.
I would think that would be
There's a
continued.
lot of folks out there
Yeah,
in our age bracket that
Yeah,
that meet that
that's
criteria. You were before Medicaid, Medicare, and we need to have some kind of health insurance in between. So,
changing subjects drastically, we implemented a piece of legislation called fleet management.
right.
Automobiles, trucks, purchasing, repairs, utilization, insurance coverage, all of that was managed by each department. They bought their own car and they had their own service and they had their own program running it. Well, the legislature this past session put in play and established the Office of Fleet Management. We did it within the Department of Transportation to manage the purchase, lease, operation, maintenance, and disposal of all state-owned motor vehicles. Estimate is that we, over a number of years, will be able to save $10 to $20 million. Again, we're trying to right-size our government to fit the amount of dollars that we have, and we believe we can keep the same delivery system of services under that fleet management program, yet be able to do it at a much less cost than we're presently putting into it by every department having its own maintenance program.
And when it goes out to bid, it's a much easier process
Yes.
and more fair process as far as getting more money for or more bang for your dollar.
We would hope so. And yes, economy of scale should be much better if you're buying 200 cars as opposed to 20. In that kind of regard.
Going to another subject, I see you have there prisoners. It's been said many times over and over, and if you talk to the local sheriff and jail warden here that we have, and I've been in the system as well as far as working in the jail system, there's a lot of waste of tax dollars on lawsuits being filed, frivolous, what I would call lawsuits, by prisoners just
Yes.
to tie the system up. Can you tell us what happened there?
Well, the legislature addressed that with legislation this past session also. Before you can file a civil lawsuit, if you're a prisoner in the custody of the state corrections facility, you first got to go to an exhaustive and well-defined administrative procedure. You've got to first get past the administrative remedy before you're allowed to file the civil suit. Eddie, I believe it was the lady in up in Huntsville that was a college professor that killed one of her cohorts and
Right.
pleaded guilty to that crime, yet it cost us several $1 million to litigate it. If this bill had been in place, then we would have not had that particular cost in that particular instance. And we think you parallel that all over the entire state, that we will save several $1 million in litigation fees, the state having to hire attorneys and go to court, and also occupying the time of the judges where they could rather be used under other circumstances.
That's a huge issue in the law enforcement or
Yes.
in the correction institutions.
Yes.
And I know about a half a dozen cases just out of Tutwiler, there, the women's prison, where it seems to be a fashion to file sexual abuse cases and things like that. They cost us millions and millions and millions of dollars, and at the end of the day, it was just a prisoner disgruntled.
Yes. Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about your list of things that you have there.
We passed a bill to upgrade or change the Fair Campaign Practices Act.
There you go.
Pack-to-pack transfers was the attempt that we made to stop those and to get more transparency within the election process, so you can determine where the money for a particular candidate is coming from. We capped I think the most important part of that, or one of the most important parts of it, is we in previous legislation had capped corporate contributions to $500. Well, that would be honorable to be able to do that, yet we also provided that individuals or corporations or entities could create PACs. So instead of just utilizing the $500 contribution from the corporation, they would go out and create several PACs that they would send the money through the PACs to the particular candidates. Again, this legislation would do away with that cap, and it was just to be able to utilize the process of the PACs totally now, as opposed to just the caps on the corporate contributions.
And that's a good thing, because a lot of folks during the past elections were throwing up the PAC money, and individuals getting extra PAC money and hiding behind one PAC into another. So this is going to eliminate that.
We hopefully it will. This is our second shot at it. We've had some courts intervene and tell the legislature that you can't mistreat X, Y, Z. You've got to treat everybody in the same manner. So it's convoluted and it's complicated, yet we think that this bill will give us more transparency into the
Before there was
process.
nothing really.
Yes, sir.
All right, I see there on your sheet too a law that caught my eye, and that's Kaylee's law, and that has to do with what happened to the child out of Florida that was, I'm assuming, that was missing, then found presumably dead. I don't think they've even found the body.
I think it was a month into that being missing that nobody, including the mother of the child, reported that child missing.
Right.
We, under this legislation, make it a Class C felony, carrying a penalty of 1 to 10 year sentence for a parent or legal guardian to fail to report a missing child. And it's named Kaylee's Law, and it's after that.
It's common sense.
Yes, it is.
If
Absolutely.
I can't see where a child could be left unknown where their presence is. I mean, we raised our kids and knew where they were at all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead with.
Well, we made an investment into the workforce. We passed, I think it's a $50 million bond issue to buy equipment for the technical schools within our high school programs, to upgrade those, to get them back into the 21st century, as we'd say, with the quality of the equipment and things that we want our children taught in the technical program. And we were trying to make sure that students all across the spectrum of the high school have access to updated technology and equipment. And that was the purpose of the 21st Century Workforce Act. That is, train our kids, and hopefully when they graduate they'll have the ability then to go out and apply for and receive some of the jobs that we're particularly fortunate we're growing in Alabama.
Locally, in fact, we talked about this last week as well with Ted Watson and Mayor Johnson, is that back in the day, Andalusia High School had 27 what they call technical applications.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Today they've got 3.
Yes, sir.
And so this would help them create more of those technical.
That, and also particularly we want to upgrade the technology and the software, the equipment and so forth that it takes to teach these new technical programs, or old technical programs as the case may be.
Well, that right here in Covington County area with the aerospace industry that we have right on our doorstep right here is a huge advantage to that for us as well.
Sure is.
And we've got the I forgot what they call it over there, but
Aviation College at Ozark. Mm-hmm. They do come and have been regularly teaching classes in the Andalusia area. And if you look at the job growth, and with an announcement of an expansion last month, we see the utilization of those training dollars going to people who are receiving good paying jobs through the aviation industry at our airport here in Andalusia.
I can remember when Vector wasn't Vector,
Yeah.
and it was a little building there next to the terminal,
Mm-hmm.
and they had one hangar where they were painting aircraft and, helicopters, and last week it was just phenomenal. I mean,
Yes.
that facility over there is just, you never would have thought that 10 years ago.
Without the investment that we've made over the last several years in the aviation industry through the program that's offered in Ozark, we would not be able to complement and offer the trained manpower for those particular jobs. So you see something that works, and it makes you proud that you invested those times and efforts and energies into that process.
How hard is it for you? And I'm getting away from this a little bit, and I know you want to go into a couple other things, but sitting here knowing that you take care of Coffee County and Covington County in your daily chores as senator, you've got a deprived county, or I don't want to say deprived, but a county that is having issues financially, trying to get industry and trying to keep businesses in there and building, to a county like Covington that it just seems like we're blessed over and over and over again. How difficult is that for you to balance that and try to get into Coffee County and bear witness for them?
Well, I particularly like Coffee County. That's my home.
Right.
I also particularly like Covington County. It's my second home. We have a place here up on Point A that we genuinely enjoy most every weekend, and I'm blessed to have that. The rest of my district is North Dale County and some of Houston County, about 19,000 individuals that live in Houston County. I can only tell you that in a time manner that it takes a good deal of time to be able to be visible and to be at meetings in those particular segments. Today we're in, yesterday we were in Troy, which is going to be part of Pike County, is going to be in the new district. I spoke yesterday to the Rotary Club in Troy. Today I'm this morning in Andalusia. Tomorrow afternoon I'll be back in Troy for another event with Martha Roby, and then Friday at 7:30 we will go to Ozark to a forum, which is a group of individuals that come together once a month, and we just talk about Southeast Alabama and how we can grow the economy and improve our standard of living and find out what's going on in Montgomery. So it takes a good deal of time, but it's really a lot of fun also.
We get a lot of good news in Covington County, and I'm proud of that.
Yes.
Is there anything over the horizon for Coffee County? Because I love Elba. I love that area over there. There's some great folks over there. Great mayor, great council, and county commission as well. Just very genuine people. And when you look over there, it's like they're really struggling. Is there anything on the horizon?
Well, it's interesting. You would think that would be the case, but we have in Coffee County been in the lowest 4 or 5 on the unemployment list in the entire state for several times in the past several months. Enterprise and Coffee County and Elba and Kinston and New Brockton and the rural area grew by 15% over a 10-year period of time. Yeah, that's why we had a House district that just encompassed Coffee County. We grew 15%, so we had to give up some of the area of the population, and our good friend Mike Jones will be representing the Kinston area of Coffee County, and the gentleman from Crenshaw County will be representing part of the Zion Chapel Jimmy Holley household area up in the Crenshaw area. And we have had a growth in population. The enterprise housing market is maybe it's not as great as it was prior to 08, but it is rebounded. There's some development going on in that area again. Of course, we know that the mainstay of Southeast Alabama, our economic engine, is Fort Rooker, Alabama. And we're hope that the BRAC, if it ever comes again, would look favorably upon Southeast Alabama, because we genuinely are pleased and proud of Fort Rooker and what it means to us. So the perception that things are not going and growing now, I think maybe a little bit different.
You caught me on that one, because I'll tell you, when you drive through Elba and look at the old Dorsey plant and see those things.
If you talk about little pockets of problems, then you could look to Elba. We've had a population of over 5,000 in the early 90s. We've had 2 major floods. We now have the levee fixed. We had to move our school system.
Beautiful location.
We did.
Wow.
And we have, Dorsey Trailers have been bankrupt twice. Kleinert's had over 900 employees at one time, went to Nicaragua or some Latin American country. We lost all those jobs in the confines of 10 or 15 years. Our population down now to around 3,500. So yes, we have problems, but we also have some opportunities, and there has been some good developments. The governor came down last week and announced $73 million of road projects to finish. Early 80s, my dear friend Seth Hammett, and to a little degree me, and Governor Siegelman at the time, with a commitment from him, started Highway 84 from Andalusia, and it has almost reached the other side of Elba, and there's parts of it from New Brockton enterprise that's being developed. So it's been 20 years. We still are ongoing. There's several segments of that road under construction, and he announced the other components of it, the bridges and so forth over the rivers there in Elba, to take place within the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, that has been news locally in that area now for the past couple of weeks, with the breaking down the roads and having traffic issues over through New Brockton and that area. But that's all good news, because that, is growth and its expansion. When we come back, we'll take a quick break. Come back, let you go ahead and wrap everything up.
Okay.
And tell us what in the world's going on up there in beautiful Montgomery town, as they say. But we appreciate you coming on once again, Senator, and looking forward to it. We'll be right back with more with Senator Holley right after these messages from our sponsors.
I think we're pretty well.
Good morning and welcome back once again to WKNI TV Good News segment. And we have Senator Holley with us, who we're always proud to have on, talking about the Senate side of things happening up there. And it's just always a great. I got a message for you. I forgot to tell you. My son said thank you very much for your support. And he saw the video where you turned it around on me with him. And he does want to get together with you. He brought you a little something back from Afghanistan.
Well, I look forward to meeting him. I don't tear up a lot, but the other day when his kids and all at the school he surprised them, touched my heart. It made me feel proud, and I was displeased for you and his mother, and
there wasn't a dry eye in the room.
Oh, there wasn't one in our house either. That was something special. I know you're glad to have that young man back in the United States.
Man, I'll tell you, I can't speak for all parents, but I can tell you as a parent, that is one of the most tremendous pressures that, and I never want to go through it again. I mean, hopefully this country can get things squared away and start taking care of business. But speaking of taking care of business, he did say thank you. And,
I look forward to meeting him
personally. You will have that opportunity. A couple things, the Commercial Aviation Business Improvement Act and the Red Tape Reforms Act.
Yeah, 2 pieces of legislation that are site-specific, regional-specific. The Dothan area, with our impetus on repairing aircraft there at the Dothan Airport. I think Lockheed Martin and Troy and Bell there in Ozark, and then the repair business we have here in Andalusia. There's pockets of jobs being created in the repair business for aviation. Some of the other states that are competing with us have given incentives for those individuals to locate in their communities, and we passed a bill that would bring us in Alabama into the realm of being able to compete in a very competitive way for these aviation jobs that we don't want going to Florida and Georgia and Mississippi. We want them to stay here or either come to Alabama. We took parts and removed the sales and use tax off of the parts that it takes to complete the repairs to those aircraft that are brought in for repair. So I think a great piece of legislation, and it will recruit jobs for the state of Alabama, not only here in southeast Alabama, but in particularly the entire state. Mobile Airbus, particular interest there. Huge project in Mobile, Alabama. And there's going to be some spinoff way up in southeast Alabama because of the magnitude of that Airbus project in Mobile.
Well, we mentioned earlier, you did, about the $50 million that's been appropriated for the technical aspects
Yes.
of the schools, and this goes hand in hand with that.
Sure does.
Here we've got quality local people that are able to take in those positions, and then you've got positions that you can actually go out and entice them
Yes.
to come into the community, because whether people like it or not, there's other people out there that are trying to give things away a lot bigger than we are
Yeah.
to get the business in, just to get the dollars and revenue to come through.
Very true. Another piece of legislation I thought of interest, particularly to small businesses. In the state of Alabama, the state agencies, Revenue Department, Health Department, Insurance Department, all the departments of state government, by and large, with few exceptions, have rule-making authority or regulatory authority. They can create rules and regulations, and there's a process where they get affirmed. But anyway, in that affirmation process, the legislature sent a piece of legislation to give some directive to those state government agencies creating these rules and regulations. And particularly it says before you can pass a rule or regulation, you've got to analyze prior to the adoption of any proposed regulation what would be the adverse impact on small businesses, if any. In other words, if there is no impact, then you would acknowledge that in the paperwork you'd fill out. But if the Revenue Department had a rule that they were trying to implement that had an impact on small business, they're supposed to report that to the Legislative Council. So a good piece of legislation that should cause that the end results of it hopefully will be less rules and less regulations by those state agencies.
Senator, it may have been a difficult year, and it may have had some ups and bumps with it, but it sounds like we got a lot done.
We did. We had as I would agree with Senator Marsh and the governor, we had a good session. One of the other smaller pieces of legislation I think you have a profound impact, you never know till you have to implement it, is the authority. Right now, a school system can use sheriff's deputies,
Right.
or they can use city police, if it's a city school system, in their at their events and so forth.
Right.
The legislature passed a bill that would allow local school boards of education to hire and equip APOS certified school resource officers. In other words, if it's a trained individual with the same training you'd have in a deputy sheriff.
That would be the APOS.
Yes, that would be the APOS certified training program. So we passed that legislation. It hopefully you won't say that ever this is a good piece of legislation, because you hope you never get to prove it.
Exactly.
But sometimes local boards may want to hire their own
The
resource.
security of the children's
Yes.
become a huge issue.
Absolutely is, and we put the we put the tool in place for the local school to utilize if they choose to do so. So although it's a minor piece of legislation, it could prove to be invaluable if implemented and needed in the proper place. And finally, there one other bill I thought of major importance is that it's a constitutional amendment. It will have to be voted on by the voters, you and I, and the general public in general. It says that you are prohibited, the courts, from using foreign law in the exercise of judicial ruling. In other words, you can't use the United Nations Charter or some part of the United Nations plan or either some religious documentation and so forth outside to implement the changes in our court system to give the rulings that you make. So a good piece of legislation that says that basically that we want to be a people of law, but our law is the United States Constitution and the Alabama Constitution.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because being from Florida area, there's a lot of times I just wonder when the states are going to ever step up and make it America first, and that you're doing there. Senator, once again, we thank you for coming on WKNI TV. Hope you get to feeling better. You get over to that doctor's appointment, and you tell them, hey, Eddie's sick too. What do we need to do with him? But I don't know if you want me. You might get the wrong answer on that one. But as always, you're always welcome here. We appreciate you. You're going to have a great summer, I know. You've got a wonderful wife that's going to make sure that you enjoy yourself. Yeah. We talked about you the last time I called and talked to her. I said, is it really true he comes home every night and be with you and have dinner? Yeah, he does.
Absolutely.
So she's proud of you. She loves you.
Thank you.
Senator, thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do for this state and our country, because a lot of times folks don't realize how Alabama impacts the surrounding area as well.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you, sir.
Thank you much.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. And we're going to have a guest from the library coming on, talking about what's going on over there at Andalusia Library. So have a blessed day. Be careful. It's a beautiful, gorgeous day out there, and just be safe.